the word iconic just kept popping in, and I did not like it at first. Tenzin, like that word, I was like, that does not suit me. I am not an icon, nor do I consider myself iconic, but it wouldn't leave me alone. And it was when I married those two words to realize we're all iconic if we choose to be, but it is the becoming and the willingness to go out on the skinny branch and to do it again and to try something new and to pivot and to honor ourselves and to use our voice and to be audacious. That's iconic. And so becoming iconic was birthed from that vision of really wanting women, whether it's being an iconic stay-at-home mom or an iconic entrepreneur or an iconic wife, partner, we get to choose to become the best version of ourselves every single day. And that's what I stand for. So now I work with women, and I do work only with women just out of choice. It's my call and what I love to do. I work with women to get them out of their own way and to have them step into their becoming so they start to feel so soaked in pleasure and fulfillment and joy that it ripples not just in their business but throughout their life and their lived experience. And it is one of my greatest joys in my life.
Hello, Jen. I am so elated to welcome you on the Tenzin Show. First of all, a very happy new year. And what better way to kickstart the year than to start with you as a guest on the podcast? So, welcome.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's so nice to be in your company. Happy New Year.
Absolutely. And you have such a riveting body of work, a wealth of experience, both personally and professionally, right?
Mhm.
So before we delve into your role as an entrepreneur, we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about your role as a mentor. Let's talk about you. Who is Jen beyond the entrepreneur and mentor? What are her values?
Oh, great question. And nobody's ever asked that of me before. So I thank you for going deep quickly. Deep and meaningful conversations is a love language of mine. So I really appreciate this question. Who is Jen? Jen is a curious, playful, multi-dimensional, multi-passionate woman who is craving and hungry to see all of herself in this lifetime. And what I mean by that is I'm grateful since I've been a young girl when I feel like there's something for me or for something for me to investigate. I have a deep belief in myself. I've never really been that person or that woman or that human that has questioned or been in lack of belief or has pushed things away because I'm fear of failure or what if it doesn't work out or what will people think. There's always been this innate curiosity that really triumphs in those moments. So I have developed this deep trust in myself along my journey of allowing myself to be playful and curious and try things to pick myself up over and over again. And it's now translated into what I do in entrepreneurship and mentorship to support other women to play with their capacity and to allow themselves to shift and shape according to what turns them on and what they're passionate about right now. We are not meant to do one thing forever and ever. We're not meant to be one version forever and ever. And so, capacity and teaching women to eradicate sacrificial living has married itself very well into what I do because I've lived that since a little girl.
Absolutely love that. And I think I couldn't agree more on that because you left your corporate career as a corporate, you're in the marketing field, correct? And
Yes.
left that, you became a stay at home mom, and then you leaped into entrepreneurship. So, what kind of catapulted you in the direction?
While I was sacrificing myself. I had left my career because I looked at my firstborn, my daughter, Gracie, and like most women, I thought I have to choose.
Mm,
And I loved my career. I just have to be very clear about that. I think a lot of people think we moved to entrepreneurship because we hate our jobs and it was this soul sucking. I loved my job. I was great at my job. But when you have a baby and you look at her as a woman, I felt I have to choose between these worlds. They don't marry, they don't coincide, they don't blend. What do I do? And naturally, you choose your child. I looked at her and she's a natural choice. And so I made that decision to stay home. I'm grateful that I made that decision to stay at home. It was a really beautiful time in my life. But it was in sacrifice of who I was and who I was becoming. I was a very young mom. I was in my very early 20s and hadn't even figured out who I was. And so my identity got completely warped and morphed into mom as the only title and my only identity. And I really lost myself in that role. And it's a beautiful role to lose yourself in. And not many moms talk about this topic because it could be misunderstood and it also could be judged. But I feel like I'm here to have these honest conversations that it wasn't enough for me. It was the most important title in this lifetime. They are my soul, my heart, my everythings. But also, there's a part of me that was craving and yearning to be seen and to be understood and to evolve. And it was really Gracie. I had been home for a very long time, completely lost myself, but yet so happy to be with my now 2 kids. And we were driving to the gym. I'd gotten a job working at a gym teaching spin classes just to get myself out of the house and to have a break. And we were driving and she said, "Mommy, where are all the cars going?" So it was a fun game of like, "Oh, that car's going to the grocery store, that car's going." And she said, "No, no, no, no. All the daddies go to work and all the mommies go to the gym." And so it was like my car came to a complete stop. It was one of those like pregnant pauses, pivotal moments in my life where it stung me that that's actually not what every mom and every dad does. And my daughter was growing up thinking that these were the categories or the roles or the identities of a mother and father. And I felt the call as a woman to show my daughter what I was made of and what was possible for her. And so without even really looking, it was just that moment that stirred something in me. Someone said, I must have been talking about it. And someone said to me, "Well, why don't you become an entrepreneur?" And I was like, "Well, what is that?" I had no idea what entrepreneurship was. Nobody in my life had ever been an entrepreneur, at least that I knew of. And they're like, "Well, you could build a business." And now with computers, and this was back when we had dial up, modems. Okay, I sound
Yeah.
like a dinosaur, but honest to God, this is not that long ago, but it feels like forever ago that we had more access, more availability. And so I was on this health journey and I thought, well, let's see what I can do with helping other women who were just like me, who were moms and wanting to get their health back. And it took off. And I realized I now have the best of both worlds. I want to tell every woman I can about it that you can be present for the ones you love. You can be present to your personal life while also being present to who you're contributing and impacting the world.
Love that. I just wanted to listen to you when you were speaking and just listen to you because there's so much wisdom. Um, and I've heard the former CEO of PepsiCo say this, Indra Nui. She once said, "For women, our biological clock and the professional clock always clashes." Right, and it's so difficult for us to choose what we need to do at that given point in time. And if we choose one and leave the other, we feel guilty. We feel like we've lost a huge part of our lives. And to make the decision that, I'm going to ace both personally and professionally. And it's easier said than done. It's way easier said than done. But you've made it happen, or you're making it happen for you, for so many other women out there. I am so deeply intrigued to learn about your venture and what's the story behind becoming iconic.
So now 4 kids in, and 2018, I had built an 8-figure wellness brand and was very well known. And throughout that journey, it was about 15 years, I had become an entrepreneur and I was building babies and building businesses that whole year, those 15 years. All of a sudden, I had that same stir in my belly that I had had back when I looked at my daughter and thought I have to choose. I wanted to have bigger conversations. I wanted to help women outside of the health and beauty space. I just got tired of having the same conversation over and over. And what was really apparent was how many women were coming forward and asking me to mentor them to build personal brands. And I also didn't love sending women away if it wasn't in the health and wellness space. So I went back to school actually to become a certified life coach. And I did that because as all of this was happening, well, just prior, I had gone through a divorce, and I found a lot of women were also coming to the surface and asking me, how did you do it? What happens? I'm not having a good time in my relationship." And I did not feel qualified to host those conversations. This was someone's family. I only had my personal experience, but there was something very apparent that women were desiring a deeper conversation with me, and I was very narrow of health and wellness and beauty, like, that's all I did. So that schooling equipped me with the tools to be able to confidently at least host these conversations with women and not provide solutions necessarily, but at least hold the space. And it turned me on to really wanting to be more of myself and more in this world, and to not have to fit someone in a category in any way, shape, or form to be in my presence. And so becoming iconic was a slow burn because I had such a successful brand. To pivot out of that made no sense. And I had a lot of backlash, a lot of people who looked at me as the pinnacle of success and were aspiring to build what I had built by somehow saying I wanted more, interrupted their own dream and vision because I was the epitome of their more. And so, their dreams were too attached to me, and that was a difficult thing to navigate. It really was. There was a part of me that felt guilt, like I should be satisfied. I should feel like this is enough. I mean, I was living the life that most people dream of, making incredible income, traveling the world, having the freedoms of entrepreneurship, being present with my kids. It really was the dream. But the dream grew for me. It wasn't a this or that, it was an and. And so I thought, well, I stand for women not sacrificing themselves. And if I do this right now, I betray what I know I'm being called into. I feel like a hypocrite. That will hurt my soul and spirit more than the potential of people being disappointed because I'm not living up to their projected expectation. And so becoming iconic came through a prayer that I had been saying for years. It was, "God, just today help me to be a better version of myself in some way, shape, or form." And that translated for me constantly into becoming more of myself, more audacious, more willing, more intentional, more present, more loving. And the word iconic just kept popping in, and I did not like it at first. Tenzin, like that word, I was like, that does not suit me. I am not an icon, nor do I consider myself iconic, but it wouldn't leave me alone. And it was when I married those two words to realize we're all iconic if we choose to be. But it is the becoming and the willingness to go out on the skinny branch and to do it again and to try something new and to pivot and to honor ourselves and to use our voice and to be audacious. That's iconic. And so becoming iconic was birthed from that vision of really wanting women, whether it's being an iconic stay at home mom or an iconic entrepreneur or an iconic wife, partner, we get to choose to become the best version of ourselves every single day. And that's what I stand for. So now I work with women, and I do work only with women just out of choice. It's my call and what I love to do. I work with women to get them out of their own way and to have them step into their becoming so they start to feel so soaked in pleasure and fulfillment and joy that it ripples not just in their business, but throughout their life and their lived experience. And it is one of my greatest joys in my life.
I think you're creating a humongous impact and a positive one at that, right? Um, this is inspiring, the work that you're doing. And it's a full spectrum agency with a holistic approach. It's bespoke. So could you elucidate a bit about that too for our listeners and viewers who might be interested in learning more about the agency?
Perfect. Well, you know that by now I love to explore and be curious and life. I realized several years into becoming iconic and mentoring several different industries, like there's really not an industry I haven't worked in at this point. Uh, just really realizing how many people were spending Like, I'm talking tens of thousands of dollars on brands and websites by contractors and creatives, and being left with lackluster results, being left with a website that didn't even represent themselves, not feeling like they weren't heard, feeling like they were disappointed. And I just got really tired of watching my clients have this experience. Now, this is generalizing. Not all creatives and agencies are like that. But the norm in my world was, especially 2020 to 2022, this uproar of online entrepreneurs and people just kind of picking a lane and saying all of a sudden they were an expert. They were still learning. And their learning, unfortunately, was to the detriment of the service to a lot of clients who were paying healthy amounts of money for an expected result. And so I had this incredible team that was building iconic imagery and really understanding me. And we had this similar value system and vision. And I thought, well, why wouldn't I offer my clients my team then? Like, I know my team, they will listen, they will create, they are unique and special. And so not everybody's going to have the same style or same flavor. I wanted people who could see that in someone. And I just started to naturally say to my clients, well, use my team. And it went so well that it turned into now the world's only, at least what I know, the world's only full service brand for entrepreneurs where you can come in and not just be mentored, but have these done for you services that you don't have to go shop and have all these energy leaks of being the middleman and managing all these contractors and crossing your fingers and hoping you're going to get a great result. I stand behind it and know that you're going to have an iconic website, you're going to have an iconic brand, you're going to have great graphics. Why? Because they're the people that I employ that work on my brand, and I don't settle for anything less. And they know that my standards are so high. We strive for excellence. And so now the clients that come through our brand, they get to have that same experience, and it's been incredible. One of my favorite things.
So it's all in one. I think it has a 180-degree, or I would say 360-degree
360.
perspective. I think that's the better word to use here. So I think it will be invaluable for everybody that might be interested to avail your services to work with you.
Oh,
So
thank
it's
you.
incredible. Uh, Now I want to talk about the digital extravaganza. When we speak of marketing and branding, we hear the buzzwords trending, AI, TikTok, influencers. In terms of leveraging media, how can entrepreneurs do that? Um, is it the path that we talk about, the trending buzzwords? Is that something that we need to focus on, or has the trend now changed? And do we focus on the trends in the first place?
That's a great question. And it's an and answer again. So I would say there's something to knowing trends because there's some clues and cues that we can use within our own branding and marketing that just is only going to enhance it. But to be a trend chaser would be exhausting.
Hmm.
And you're going to constantly be pivoting and confusing your community because one day you're this way, the next day you're another way because you're simply just chasing trends. And for me, the chase is what hinders women to be out of their power. It's when we can hold our power and hold our vision and know that we are the brand. The personal brand is you. There's no escaping that. And so if it's not something that lights you up or gets you excited, then I would suggest maybe try something else. But if you are meant to be an entrepreneur and you know that in the cells of your body, and then you understand that a personal brand means that you have to show up and build this brand, you are the representation of whatever it is you offer. That has to go now into the marrow of your bones. And then the accountability to show up and be exactly who you are without embellishment and exaggeration and copying and all the weird things that are going on. That's audacious. Then all of a sudden you stand apart. The ones that stand apart are the ones who are unique and rare and in their power and in their confidence and convicted. But that's not an easy thing to get to necessarily. And how do we do that? We do that by being audacious and convicted and confident in the first place. The readiness never comes first. You've got to be willing to go in the arena and play full out and be seen and make mistakes and, go, oh gosh, like I look back, I wish my social media hadn't been stolen from me. in 2022, because I think one of the most valuable things that people could see coming in on this version of me is go back to 2016 when it was a mess and I didn't know how to do graphics and I was trying to find my voice online and I was all over the place splattering things like wet noodles against the wall hoping they will stick. I didn't start perfectly or I didn't start in the iconic way that I am today. It was an evolution and growth, but I had to be willing to get in the arena first to learn and to understand. And that's what built my confidence. I also think it's a beautiful expression. I wish more people understood the online
Trending, AI, TikTok, influencers.
express ourselves in ways that fulfill us and give us that sense of excitement and passion and the availability to growth and artistry. There's something really beautiful about building on the online space. It is one of my favorite things. And people want to make social media wrong and, oh, it's doing this and it's ruining this. Well, that's if you allow it to do that to you or through you. But it also can enrich your life. I remember the first time I met somebody who was in Africa on a boat teaching aerobics to whoever was on this boat. And I remember that moment so clearly. We were chatting back and forth in the DMs, and I thought, never in my lifetime did I think that I could get on my phone and meet somebody who's on a ship in Africa teaching aerobics on a random Tuesday. Like, this is the neatest, most expansive, most beautiful, abundant resource, but how we use it can make it or break it. And so I would say don't chase trends, be a trend setter, and don't think that something that, somebody's doing over there to be successful can just translate, you just copy it and put it through and that's going to work for you. You are the secret sauce. You are the person that your community is looking for. And so I would really challenge the people listening in to take that on and take the ownership and the accountability and the responsibility of that and have a whole lot of fun in the meantime.
That goes as a quote on my t-shirt for sure. Because everything that you said is so quotable, like it is a soundbite. And I absolutely I agree with everything that you said, including the part about evolution and being okay with making a plethora of mistakes and starting small and even embarrassing yourself. And I think it's a part and parcel of everyone's evolution and their brand image, isn't it? So that's wonderful. And yeah, because a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of even young entrepreneurs get into this black hole of constant checking of likes and views and followers. It's a process, and that patience, I believe, is a talent. A lot of people overlook the importance of patience,
Mm.
along with your knowledge, your wisdom, and all the things, all the zeal and zest that you have within you. What also goes in congruence is your patience, because not everybody's patient. People give up. You didn't. And yeah, I completely concur with everything that you said, so much so that I wanted to have quotes on my t-shirt. I would like to understand now. So you mentioned, of course, for entrepreneurs, authenticity is key. It's pivotal. So how can we be authentic both online and in person as entrepreneurs, as a walking, talking business card?
Mhm. That is a challenge and will always be a challenge of sorts. I don't believe there's a destination where all of a sudden we can be like, I am truly authentic forever and ever. Amen. Like I don't know if that's a destination that we arrive to. What it is I think there's checkpoints along the way. And what interrupts authenticity is ego. And what I think people feel ego is they always feel ego is better than. That's how they associate ego. But ego can also be very sneaky and say you are less than. It can be that voice that tells you, oh, you're not good enough. You don't have enough followers. Nobody's liking your posts. Why are you even bothering? That is as much ego as I am the best. I make $1 million every minute. And it's the same thing. It's just coming in different forms. So authenticity to me is the ability to sort through that and meet in the middle, to understand both of those voices will show up, but how you lead through those moments is very, very important. And authenticity is the ability to be seen And how are we seen is the ability to accept ourselves first. I accept that I am on the journey and the path of learning. I don't know everything. I haven't perfected everything, nor do I ever believe I actually will. I'll get really good at some things. I'll have deep understanding around certain subjects. I'll have an incredible experience and expertise that I can teach you, but that will always be imperfectly because I'm a human in the deep end of living this experience alongside of you. So, authenticity is the acceptance of that in myself, the acceptance of I might do something and feel really embarrassed, like you had said, or I might do something and it falls flat on its face. Nobody cares, nobody buys, nobody, whatever the outcome is that you're looking for. But the only way through is through. You can't go around those moments. You can't go over those moments. You can't go under those moments. You've got to go through them. And that's authenticity. That's audacity. Like, how many people are not willing to do that? They want to perfect it. I think of my oldest daughter. I love her dearly, and she is probably the most tenacious human being I've ever known in my entire life. But her challenge, and I see it in her, especially as she's getting older, has always been the perfectionism. She would not get on that bike and ride the bike with her friends until she knew she could ride the bike without the training wheels and not fall and not scuff her knee and not make quote unquote a fool of herself. This has been one of her things in her life, is the waiting to do it and do it as well as she can before she allows herself to try. Being really authentic is being okay with the falling down, scuffing your knee, picking yourself back up, even if people are laughing, and going again. And that really is, to me, such a superpower in the online space where there's so many people who are waiting to perfect it or faking it until they make it. And that faking it has a sound, it has a smell. I can see it from a mile away. And then they wonder, why are people not buying? Why are people not engaging? Well, it's like, I can taste it. You're faking it. Instead, let's faith it
Mm.
until we make it, and faith that our journey and sharing our story will be the catalyst for somebody watching, will be the spark for someone of like, "Oh, you did that? Oh, wait, I think I could do that too," or "You've been through that? Oh, I'm going through that too." And those connection points only deepen our experience and deepen our growth.
Mm. I agree. I completely agree with that 100% because I think that oftentimes what happens, we're lost in the conundrum of life, especially with the overload of sensory experience with social media, the bombarding of information that we don't need, the constant comparison with likes and followers, and also, as you rightly mentioned, authenticity is about being yourself. Because in pleasing others, we tend to lose ourselves. I think
Mhm.
that's not the right path to be on, right? Um, Now, as a mother, I'm sure that you've garnered some beautiful experiences. How has your experience being a mother, being a mom, with a family, contributed to the success of the business? Because I'm sure some of the values that
Mhm.
some experiences or lessons that you've gained as a mother might have transferred or something that you might have applied even on business. So how did that go for you? Have you been applying certain principles?
Yeah, that's a Pandora's box. I have so much to say around that.
Okay.
I'm going to start with a really powerful message that touched the hearts of many women. I was just recently speaking at an event, and the amount of women that came up to me after was actually quite mind boggling. And it's because I said to them, stop using your kids as your excuse to not go for it. And I remember having this realization early on as a mom, thinking about my kids as they age. I kind of like went in my mind, I was visualizing, thinking of them as adults and sitting around the table. Maybe let's call it a holiday, sitting around the table and going, "Hey, mom, you know that becoming iconic thing you did, or the iconic magazine? How come like that never, like, what happened to that?" And if I said, "Well, kids, it's because I wanted to be your mom, like, I didn't wanna, be away from you," or whatever it may be. I didn't want them to feel responsible for the things that I didn't do in my life. I'm not going to throw my kids under the bus. Instead, I'd used them as the very reason why. I have wanted to quit sometimes, and I thought, I can't, they're watching me. I've wanted to scream sometimes, and that's been a humbling moment because I thought to myself too, there's an opportunity here where my kids get to see all the pieces of who I am and all the pieces of growing something successfully, to realize it's not all rainbows and lollipops. There's lots of times where it can be excruciating. There's lots of times where you are in doubt, but I want them to see all of that. But at the end, I must show them that I rise again, that I dust myself off, that I keep going. That's if I can leave them with that example of picking yourself up over and over and over again, never quitting on yourself, never giving up on your dreams, I feel like I've done a really, really good job. And I also started teaching them around my students and my clients, because what I realized is I was separating the worlds that never really worked well for me. So instead, around the dinner dining room table at night, I would tell them about a client and what they were wanting to build and why, and how I was working with this client, because I want them to have a life like we have. And their buy-in to the business has been so great because they see the purpose in it. It's not just mom's on her phone or mom's working. They know that I am working to make somebody else's family and life better, so that those kids that mom is a mother to go on trips the way we go on trips. And it has been a beautiful experience. I really do believe children raised by entrepreneurs are different. And I believe they're different because for most, I'll speak for myself. I'm not going to say for most of us, I'll speak for myself. My children have been raised to hear conversations around how to work through challenge. My children have been raised by hearing me pour life and breathe life into women when they needed it, to champion others, to think bigger, to stretch and grow. They haven't been surrounded by conversations of, I hate my job, or this person at the office, or gossip, or negativity, or the traffic, and like all this stuff that fills people's homes and complaining. I've instead been in the growth mode of how can we grow our lives? And that's really the biggest part of our conversations most days. And that is such a gift. I don't know if we realize that enough, especially as moms, the gift of the conversations and language that they are exposed to through our experience.
And you're the role model for your kids. I can see that already.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
lovely. What is your idea of success, Jen? I'm so inquisitive to hear your equation of success.
The very, very seed of that, like if we get down to the very small little detail, it's peace. Peace.
Hmm. Okay.
Peace is my definitely my North Star, what I desire, because peace to me offers so many gifts of expansion, gratitude, presence, acknowledgement, more. I desire more beauty, more taste, more sights, more laughter, more memories. That is my deepest desire. It's my why. It's why I started entrepreneurship 19 years ago, was to create as many memory making moments as I possibly could in this lifetime. And so when I think about, well, why do I want memory making moments? And I break it down and break it down and break it down. At the end of the day, it's this piece of knowing I reaped the reward of this lifetime. I squeezed out every last drop. I gave my most to everybody that I had the pleasure and blessing of being in proximity to, and that I leave a legacy of that my kids remember, like, mom lived. Mom did the things. Mom took risk. Mom was available. Mom was loving. That's peace for me and success.
Yes. If I yeah, absolutely. Because for every individual, I think it's different because the wide array of guests that we've had on the Tenzin show, whether they're space scientists or entrepreneurs or Hollywood celebrities or even spiritual leaders, everybody has a different perspective of success, right? I once spoke to a social worker. Their idea of success is ensuring that the children around the world don't sleep hungry. For entrepreneurs, it's different. So for every individual, it's so unique. And this conversation truly felt like as if we were just, chatting in the living room and talking about life and talking about businesses. And it's been a refreshing, organic, and real conversation with you today, Jen. Thank you so much for sharing you, your life, and giving us a little sneak peek into your business. And thank you for welcoming us into your world. Thank you.
Thank you. What a generous, beautiful conversation it has been, and I appreciate being included in your podcast and with the beautiful people that you've had on the podcast. And I really appreciate what you're doing. So thank you. I do want to say, as one podcast host to the other, hosting a podcast is such a generous act and contribution to the world. I think sometimes people forget or don't realize the amount of work and time and investment of money and resources go into giving something for free to
Mm.
people on the internet. So I honor you as being an epic, iconic podcast host, and thank you for serving your community in this way. It's an act of generosity every single time you do it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the show, Jen.
Thank you.